I'm Tom, 42 years old, and I'm writing this because I still don't know what to do with the weight of it. When everything started to fall apart, I was 39 and convinced my life had finally settled into something solid. Not exciting, not perfect, but safe. I had a stable career as a private financial consultant, a decent reputation, and a girlfriend I genuinely believed was my future. Her name is Jessica. We'd been together for just over 3 years, living together for one. No kids. No marriages. Just two adults who'd both been hurt before and swore we wouldn't repeat old mistakes. We talked about, forever, in that quiet, realistic way people our age do, retirement plans, shared routines, whose parents we'd end up caring for. Life felt normal. Comforting. Predictable in a good way. Jessica used to say she loved how calm things were with me. How safe. I wore that like a badge of honor. Around that same time, I took on a new client named Eric. Mid-30s. Recently divorced. Emotionally wrecked but functional enough to ask for help. His separation had been ugly, and he needed someone to untangle the financial mess. We met weekly at first. He talked more than most clients. Not just about money, but loneliness, betrayal, the fear of starting over. I listened. That was my job. What I didn't realize was that my professional life and my personal life were already colliding. Quietly. Invisibly. By the time I noticed, it was far too late. Jessica and I met through mutual friends at a dinner party, the kind where everyone's pretending they're more put together than they are. She was easy to talk to, attentive in a way that felt rare. She remembered things. Asked follow-up questions. Made me feel seen without trying too hard. She worked as a life coach, which should have been my first clue that she knew exactly how to say the right things. She talked a lot about emotional honesty, boundaries, and healing. She'd been cheated on before. I had too. That shared history became the foundation of our relationship. We promised each other we'd never lie just to avoid discomfort. If something felt wrong, we'd talk about it. No secrets. For the first couple of years, I genuinely believed we lived up to that. Eric entered my life later, purely through work. He was charming in a broken way, self-aware, sarcastic, clearly still bleeding from his divorce. He talked about his ex-wife like she'd hollowed him out. During sessions, he'd drift from spreadsheets into existential territory, asking if love after betrayal was even possible. If trust ever fully comes back. I tried to keep things professional. I really did. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't empathize with him. I saw pieces of my younger self in his confusion. I mentioned Eric to Jessica casually. New client. Rough divorce. She was immediately sympathetic. Asked how he was holding up. Asked his name. Asked what he did for work. At the time, it felt like normal curiosity. She was always interested in my clients' emotional journeys. Looking back, those conversations feel different now. He wasn't just a name to her. I just didn't know why yet. Things stayed normal for a while. Or at least I told myself they did. Jessica and I had our routines. Coffee together in the mornings. Texts during the day. She'd ask how my sessions went, sometimes in more detail than usual. I chalked it up to her being supportive. That's what partners do, right? Eric became a regular client. Weekly meetings turned bi-weekly, then monthly. He trusted me. Too much, maybe? He'd talk about how isolated he felt, how hard dating was post-divorce. I'd gently steer things back to finances, but some sessions still drifted. I didn't think that was dangerous. I thought I had boundaries. The first real red flag came in the form of coincidence. One night, Jessica mentioned a new friend she'd met through a mindfulness group. She said his name casually, like it didn't matter. Eric. I remember pausing, fork halfway to my mouth. I asked how she met him. She shrugged, said he'd been recommended by someone else in the group. Said it was random. The city's big, but not that big. Still, I didn't want to be the paranoid boyfriend. I didn't want to police her friendships. She reassured me immediately. Relax, Tom. I didn't even know it was the same Eric until he mentioned your name. Small world. That should have been enough. But after that, I noticed things. She started dressing differently for her group meetings, staying out later, being protective of her phone in a way she never had before. When I asked how Eric was doing financially, she'd already know. Details I hadn't shared. I told myself I was imagining it. That jealousy at our age was immature. That trust meant swallowing discomfort. I ignored my gut. And that's the part one still hate myself for. After that dinner, something shifted in me, even though I pretended it hadn't. I started paying closer attention. Not in a dramatic, snooping way, more like my brain had flipped a switch I couldn't turn off. Jessica was suddenly busy, more often. Extra evening sessions. Weekend retreats that popped up last minute. She'd always been independent, so I tried not to question it. But the energy was different. Distracted. Like she was halfway somewhere else even when she was sitting next to me on the couch. Eric, on the other hand, seemed lighter during our sessions. Less hopeless. He joked more. Mentioned a woman he was seeing casually. He didn't use her name. I didn't ask. I told myself it wasn't my business. But once he said something that stuck. I didn't think I could feel taken care of again, he said, almost to himself. Not like this. It felt like a punch to the chest. I remember nodding, making some neutral comment about healing taking time, while my heart was racing. I wondered who she was. Why that sentence bothered me so much. At home, Jessica was more affectionate in bursts. Almost performative. Big hugs sudden. I love you. Then emotional distance again. Hot and cold. I started second-guessing everything. My tone, my questions, my reactions. Was I being paranoid? Controlling? Insecure? I didn't want to become that guy. The one who ruins a relationship by imagining ghosts. So I kept quiet. I smiled. I trusted. And the silence grew heavier every day. The doubt didn't explode all at once. It seeped in. Jessica started guarding her phone like it held state secrets. She'd tilt the screen away, take calls in the other room. If I walked in, she'd end them quickly. When I asked how her day was, her answers got vague. Good. Busy. End of story. With Eric, the discomfort got worse. He stopped talking about loneliness entirely. Instead, he mentioned plans. Dinners. Weekends away. Once, without thinking, he said, "She really gets me." I felt sick. I started replaying every conversation, every coincidence. Two separate worlds overlapping too neatly. I barely slept. My mind kept whispering the same thought. What if I already know the answer and I'm just scared to say it out loud? Still, I didn't confront anyone. I needed proof. Or maybe I needed time to prepare for my life breaking in half. The turning point came by accident. It always does. Jessica asked me to grab something from her laptop while she was in the shower. We'd never had, no devices, rules, so it didn't feel wrong. Her email was open. A notification popped up before I could even think. Can't stop thinking about last night. I felt so safe with you. My stomach dropped. The name on the preview wasn't saved as a contact. Just an email address. But I recognized it instantly. Eric's. I stared at the screen like it might rearrange itself into something innocent. It didn't. I clicked. I shouldn't have, but I did. There were weeks of messages. Long ones. Intimate ones. Talk of healing each other. Of love. Of being careful because Tom can't know yet. I closed the laptop and sat there in silence, listening to the shower run, realizing my girlfriend and my client had built a whole secret life right under my nose. I don't remember deciding to confront her. I just remember standing up and my hands shaking. When Jessica came out of the bathroom, towel around her hair, She smiled like nothing was wrong. That smile broke something in me. I asked her very quietly, "How long have you been seeing Eric?" Her face drained of color instantly. No confusion. No. "What are you talking about?" Just silence. That was answer enough. She sat down slowly, like her body gave up before her words did. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said. Classic line. Almost comforting in how predictable it was. I asked if she loved him. She hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than a yes. She said they started talking. As friends. That he was vulnerable. That she was helping him heal. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because I was paying to help him heal too. Apparently, we were a team and I didn't know it. I asked her how she could do this to me. To my work. To my trust. She cried. Said she never meant to hurt me. Said she was planning to tell me. When the timing was right. I remember thinking, so I'm the last person in my own relationship to know. After the confession, everything blurred together. I asked questions I didn't want answers to. How long? Where? How serious? She answered some, avoided others. They'd been seeing each other for months. Longer than I'd suspected. Long enough to say, "I love you." Long enough to make plans. What crushed me most was learning she'd promised him stability. Care. A future. The same word she used with me. She kept saying it wasn't about replacing me. That it was different. That Eric needed her in a way I didn't. That was supposed to make me feel better, I guess. It didn't. It made me feel disposable. Like I was the safe base while she chased intensity elsewhere. I told her she'd crossed every possible line, emotionally, romantically, ethically. He was my client. My responsibility. My income. My reputation. She said she hadn't thought about it like that. That it just happened. That phrase still makes my blood boil. I left the apartment that night and slept in my car. I couldn't breathe in that space anymore. Every object felt contaminated. Our life together suddenly felt fake, like a set built around a lie I'd been living in. By morning, I knew one thing for sure: even if I wanted to forgive her, I didn't know how to live with what I now knew. The next day, reality hit in layers. I had to email Eric. As a client. As the man sleeping with my girlfriend. I stared at the draft for an hour before sending a short, professional message ending our working relationship effective immediately. No explanation. I didn't trust myself to write one without exploding. He replied within minutes. Apologetic. Ashamed. Said he. Never meant for it to cross lines. Said Jessica made him feel understood when he was at his lowest. Like that was supposed to soften the blow. Jessica kept texting. Long messages. Voice notes full of tears. She said she'd cut things off with him if I wanted. That she chose me. That she panicked and made mistakes. But here's the thing no one tells you: once you see the truth, the version of them you loved doesn't exist anymore. And no amount of crying brings that person back. I went back to the apartment a few days later to pack a bag. Jessica hovered like a ghost, watching me fold clothes we'd bought together. She kept trying to talk. I kept asking for space. Neither of us was getting what we wanted. She told me she'd blocked Eric. Showed me her phone like evidence. I didn't feel relief. I felt tired. Deeply bone-level tired. What hurt most was how calmly she talked about working through this. Like betrayal was a scheduling conflict we could manage with enough communication. She asked if I'd consider couples therapy. Said we were too good to throw away. I almost agreed. That scared me. Because part of me still loved her. Still wanted the life we planned. And part of me hated myself for even considering staying. I moved into a short-term rental that night. The silence there was brutal. No shared routines. No small talk. Just me and my thoughts looping endlessly. I kept wondering if I'd missed some crucial moment where I could have stopped this. Or if it was always going to happen and I was just the last to know. The weeks after felt unreal, like I was watching my own life from the outside. I stopped sleeping properly. My appetite disappeared. I'd wake up angry, then numb, then sad, all before noon. I cancelled social plans because I didn't know how to explain why my relationship suddenly evaporated. Jessica kept reaching out, though less frequently. Each message felt like reopening a wound. She'd say she was doing the work, that she finally understood how badly she'd hurt me. I believed she was sorry. I just didn't believe that meant anything anymore. What messed with my head the most was the guilt. Not for the relationship, but for Eric. I kept replaying our sessions, wondering where I'd failed professionally. Whether I'd crossed some invisible boundary that made this possible. Rationally, I knew this wasn't my fault. Emotionally, I felt contaminated. I worried about my reputation. About ethics complaints. About whether I'd unknowingly trained my own replacement in her life. Trust became impossible. I questioned everyone's motives. Every friendly gesture felt suspect. I hated who I was becoming, smaller, guarded, constantly bracing for impact. That's when it hit me. Even if Jessica disappeared completely, the damage had already settled in. And I had no idea how to undo it. I finally told a close friend the truth. Just one. Saying it out loud made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. He didn't interrupt. Just listened. When I finished, he said, "Man, that's a double betrayal." That phrase stuck with me. Because that's exactly what it was. Not just losing my partner, but realizing my professional boundaries had been violated without my consent. My safe spaces collapsed at the same time. I heard through mutual friends that Jessica and Eric were still seeing each other. Quietly. Taking it slow. That hurt more than I expected. Not because I wanted her back, but because it confirmed how easily I'd been replaced. How disposable I apparently was. I stopped checking her social media. Blocked her number. It felt dramatic, but necessary. Every update set me back days. Work suffered. I second-guessed myself with clients. I became overly distant, afraid of emotional overlap. The irony wasn't lost on me. Some nights, I still replay the early days, searching for the moment where things went wrong. I don't know if it was a slow erosion or a choice she made long before I ever suspected. What I do know is this: betrayal doesn't just break your heart. It rewires how you see yourself in the world. Months passed. Not cleanly. Not in a straight line. Some days I felt functional, almost normal. Other days I'd see a couple laughing on the street and feel this sharp, irrational anger. Not at them. At myself for ever believing I was immune to this kind of story. I ran into Eric once at a cafe. Total accident. He looked away first. I didn't feel triumphant or vindicated. I felt empty. Like we were both just collateral damage in something bigger than either of us wanted to admit. Jessica never reached out again after I blocked her. Part of me waited for some dramatic apology, some final moment of closure. It never came. I started therapy. Not to fix anything, but because I was tired of carrying this alone. Saying her name out loud still felt strange. Like touching a bruise to see if it still hurt. It did. Therapy helped, but not in the way I expected. It didn't make the pain disappear. It just gave it a place to exist without swallowing everything else. I had to confront uncomfortable truths about myself. How much of my identity was wrapped up in being the reliable one. The safe one. How I ignored my own instincts because I didn't want to seem insecure. I confused trust with self-erasure. I also had to let go of the fantasy that there was a perfect explanation that would make it all hurt less. There wasn't. Sometimes people betray you not because you failed, but because they can. I learned that love doesn't protect you from harm. It just raises the stakes. I haven't dated seriously since. I tell people I'm busy. The truth is I'm cautious in a way I never used to be. I watch patterns. I listen more than I speak. I don't rush emotional intimacy anymore. Maybe that's growth. Maybe it's fear. Probably both. I still think about Jessica sometimes. Not with longing, but with a quiet sadness for the man I was before I knew what she was capable of. That version of me didn't survive this. And maybe he wasn't supposed to. I don't have a clean ending. No redemption arc. No dramatic confrontation where everyone got what they deserved. Jessica and Eric are still together, as far as I know. Maybe they're happy. Maybe they're just trying to justify the damage by making it worth it. I don't check anymore. What stays with me is the lesson I never asked for. Trust isn't just about believing someone won't hurt you. It's about believing you'll survive if they do. I didn't believe that back then. I do now, even if it costs me a lot to learn. Some nights, I still replay that moment in front of the laptop, the email preview, the sudden collapse of my reality. That moment split my life into before and after. If you're reading this and ignoring your gut because you don't want to seem paranoid or controlling, I get it. I did the same. Just know that silence doesn't protect you. It only delays the truth. I'm still here. A little harder. A little quieter. But still here. And for now, that has to be enough.